Hey everyone, time to take a trip to Korea and see what they've got for us in 9.11. Somebody will obviously stick a list of these in the comments, I'm sure. The builds will be in the actual video though. And thank you to Mobalytics for creating the graphics to show everything that you need to know to play these if you're going to pick them up. There is a link below to check out your own GPI and get better at League. So first up today is Malzahar. He's one of the highest win rate mid laners right now. Pretty easy to play, right? Good into loads of different matchups, mostly because he can just push. And then he has some good damage and he brings his ultimate. Malzahar isn't really that new, just nobody really wants to play him because he's not really that fun, I guess. Like you can pick him into any single team. He's good at any stage in the game and he's always going to be useful. So more people should play him, but they don't want to. But we have got a new good build at the moment. The one we're looking at is using Unsealed Spellbook. That's probably not like interesting enough either. So one step more, we're going to be taking Smite as our summoner spell. Runic Echo's first item. The good thing about Smite is it's basically like a minion dematerializer in the lane phase, and everyone takes that because they can get rid of the cannons, push really hard, and then roam. With this instead, with your Smite, you're going to be smiting cannons, pushing them faster, getting your lane pressure, and then also if you suck at CS, this is really good. This is a very easy way to make sure you get those cannons. Then afterwards, you can swap to your TP to get back to your lane phase or roam to another lane if you wanted to. You have your Ignite to kill people, a Ghost to chase people down as well. It's actually a really good keystone on Mouse. Now, Runic Echo seems kind of weird, but it's actually very cheap as an item, which is really good. Way cheaper than Luden's, and it's kind of doing similar stuff, and it only has 10 less AP. We get that part quicker, which is good, but it also means we rush into the rest of our build quicker, and we get those key items like Rylai's and Liandry's a lot sooner into the game. It also means that we can start farming jungle camps in their jungle or our own jungle as well. Just make sure you try not to piss off your jungler. Right now in Korea, they do use this, but they also just use standard Mouse. Like Airy and Comet as well is really good. It's the same build except Luden's instead of Runic Echoes. You can even go Glacial Augment as well and run GLP and Twin Shadows if you want to. You use them, you chase people down, slow them, and you ult when they can't escape. So now we're off into the jungle. There were loads of buffs and nerfs here in this patch in 9.11, but all they seemed to do was make Elise way stronger than she already was. She is kind of like the Draven of the jungle. If you play bot lane, you'll know exactly what I mean. She runs over everybody really early into the game, and it is the best early game jungler now. You're going to be getting your Moby boots, you run to lanes, you gank, you repeat over and over, and you farm a little bit in between, but you're mostly farming champions. Korea love to dive towers as well, and no one is better with repel to drop aggro. You also have the damage to start with, and then you have the repel just to drop it and run away and nobody dies. I guarantee if you watch any Elise play in Korea, she will get like level 2 or level 3, go and find the enemy jungler to kill them, or some poor laner under their tower and dive them instead. She's pretty good against tanks as well because she's very strong early game and she can outpace them, and she can also invade them while they're still trying to power up. She farms quicker, she ganks a lot more, she does a lot more damage, and they really struggle actually. It's not just Elise, like Runic Echoes was buffed recently to make it cheaper, which also made her better, and then even the crab change probably helped as well. She can get level 3, have her QW and E before fighting rather than just level 2, and she's much better at 3. When you're looking at Elise versus everybody else right now, she just has insanely high damage. She can carry herself. Isn't the best team fighter at all though, so the one downside is you are on a clock ready to end the game. Like you have to actually snowball your lead. So next up, we have probably the most underrated champion in the entire game. No joke. You can play Taliyah support, AD, jungle, but we're looking at the mid lane. Most sites have her as one of the best mid laners at 1 to 2 items right now, and this is when her flip is a death sentence. Like she will literally one-shot you if you get hit by it. She's very high range, she can kite for days, and you really can't chase her at all. As you're chasing into her, she's flinging her Q as she runs, and you will end up dying. If you can get on top of her and you can lock her down, she can't really do much except try to flip away, so that's kind of the way you beat her. Like Katarina is actually quite good against Taliyah, but she is very good at punishing melees, which is the other side of it, or anybody who doesn't have some kind of dash who wants to get a bit closer to the minion wave to try and farm where you are in flip range. The other side of this though is you can actually just PvE and push and roam and just like go to bot lane or go to top lane and win their lanes. Most mages can't really do that anymore, well not that well anymore, because Riot nerfed it, but Taliyah is one of the exceptions. Probably because she kind of came back to mid lane after that. Like she was a jungler, they killed that, they buffed her kind of mid lane, and this is where she is now. She can shove really hard with her Q, then ultimate to another lane and try to snowball the game that way, and this is originally why we saw her in the jungle, because she could roam so well. I do say this with a lot of different mages, but Sorks and Oblivion Orb is basically true damage to most AD carries or people who don't have magic resist, and with her flip, that is what really makes it so deadly. Even at just 1 items, 1.5 or 2 items, it will be a one-shot, and not many other mages can do that right now, especially ones that can also fall back to poking. Now, one of the biggest changes in 9.11 was to Janna, and it seems like they were really good buffs for her, and I'm sure you probably felt this actually in your games already, because she is a lot more popular. Janna is really not Korea's usual flavor for supports. They prefer like a Lux, Nautilus, Pyke, Thresh, more damage basically, or engage. Janna can be a really good counter to those exact champions though, the hard engage champions now, and as long as she gets out of lane phase, she's going to be fine. That is because of her new E, really, her new shield, right? There were quite a few changes to Janna, but the big part is that the crowd control from her QW or even her ultimate will lower her shield cooldown by 20%. The really cool part about that, really, is that with just 2 of those spells, you can have 100% uptime on your shields in team fights, and it becomes really hard to kill her team. It's especially easy as well because of another change with that, with her W having a lower cooldown now, so you can spam it more in those team fights, which gives you more reduction. Korea are maxing their W first, of course, most of the time, because this is their damage. It is still actually good damage even after the nerf. And as we said, with a lower cooldown, if you use it more, it's probably actually going to be a good thing. That kind of playstyle gives you some lane pressure anyway. You have some good poke damage and trading, and if you can avoid getting hard engaged early, then you can actually win your lane a lot more now, so she isn't just a team fighting pick. Especially if you pick up an Athene's, by the way, that turns out even better actually, and she is doing pretty well against most hard engaged champions now, like we said, and even Yuumi as well. She perfectly fits into the meta that we have at the moment, where a lot of champions are diving onto our AD carries, and where AD carries do more damage and protecting them means a little bit more. Like, it's actually worth keeping them alive. Now, next up is something that Korea is doing more now, but it's probably more from like EU or China actually in the first place. Pyke is such a busted champion at the moment. He is being played a ton support, but even the mid lane and top lane when the support doesn't pick it. Mid lane is actually also seriously strong, but this mini guide can apply for either of them really. It doesn't actually matter. So wave clear isn't that bad because you're going to get your Tiamat early anyway, and then you can push and roam afterwards, but it's kind of like playing against another roaming jungler or support throughout the game. When you play mid lane against a top lane Pyke, you have to worry about the jungler ganking you, the support may be roaming as well, and even the top laner. Like, that's pretty much every other lane trying to get involved and win yours. Pyke will probably do pretty well in his lane phase, and then dumpster the lane next to his afterwards when he's bored of farming, and that's the really strong part about him. It's also very hard to beat him because you trade, you damage him, and he heals a lot of it back up by using his W or getting out of vision, so he's got the health advantage most of the time. Especially after level 6, it is really hard to fight him and not die if you get hit by his hook or his stun, so he has a lot of kill pressure, but he does way more damage than anybody expects. I guess it's probably going to change over time with the more that you actually see him. The thing is, Riot also buffed his scaling a little while ago, so they made it where the more AD you have, the better everything is, but in lane phase you get more gold, so you have more AD than support Pyke. His passive great health actually scales with AD now. His W gives more move speed based on his lethality. The stun duration is even longer with more lethality. Even the ultimate execute level scales with both AD and lethality together. So basically, the more items that he has, the better Pyke things that he is going to do, and that is why he can work so well if he gets more gold from a lane. You notice so far we haven't really looked at bot lane or haven't mentioned it that much at all. There were no direct changes, but really there is no other AD to talk about except Sivir. She is so OP, it's kind of unreal. She is now the best early game AD carry, almost the best mid game as well, and this is overtaking stuff like Draven, seriously. She can just AFK push the entire lane phase, poke with her Q through the wave, and then do both at the same time. That means more tower plates. It also means a lot more damage from very far away, and they buffed her Q cooldown a little while ago as well, so she can fly those out even more. It's basically very hard to play against Sivir now and fight her properly because she just gets rid of the wave instantly, and then you're going to be fighting her plus that minion wave. It's not even just those minions that are now attacking you. Like, you've taken damage from her Q and her W as she has just pushed the wave. It makes it so hard to trade. Her spell shield also blocks like some crowd control or some very key damage, which is really good when you have supports like Nautilus running around at the moment, but you have your ultimate to run away or chase people. There isn't really that much you can do. Also, Essence Reaver was buffed a while ago to give more AD, so she really hurts even at just one item, especially if she RNGs a crit. The other part I really like about her is that she can work with any kill lane like Pyke or Thresh. She works with any defensive lanes as well though, who can just buffer something like a Yuumi or maybe even a Nami. The biggest thing actually is probably Yuumi. She is so good with Yuumi at the moment, and Yuumi is very popular. She'll fire her Q out, poke the enemy AD, slow them, and then you can't really miss your Q on them afterwards. Yes, you do scale pretty well, but it's really this kind of like lane phase dynamic where you just push and you poke at the same time that is making her really hard to play against. Now, last up, we have a few more standard ones that you actually might want to use because they're pretty meta. So Renekton is one of the best top laners in Korea now this patch, and with sort of a weirder build. So over here, we go Spear of Sojin a lot, right? It's giving you health, cooldown reduction, and really good synergy with your ultimate, and that is still good, but it's more of like a luxury item in Korea. The most common second item right now in Korea is actually a Guardian Angel, literally Black Cleaver into GA. It's very weird, but it's still a good amount of AD. It lets you rush a BF sword after Cleaver to snowball even harder as well, so it's not just about the item, but also the component. It's actually even an excuse to pick up a stopwatch and make a play with that to get even more of a lead. Like if you dive, you can drop aggro with the stopwatch. The obvious thing though as well, that is another obvious thing with GA, you're able to dive into teams face first and not die, or dive a tower and still come out on top. The kind of like lesser thought about thing though is it actually protects your bounty and it stops them cashing in, which is how you let the enemy team back in when you have a big lead. Renekton is designed to win the lane phase, right? That is why you pick him and you crush, you get a pretty big CS lead, probably get some tower plays, a gold lead, and a few kills. When you do that and you're worth like 500 extra gold, so like a kill is worth 800 for you, that is a massive way for an enemy laner to get back into the game. If they do cash in, you get ganked or you make a mistake. Almost everybody in Korea as well takes press attack, by the way, and not Conqueror, even though over here it's kind of like an even split. It's more burst potential and it's really good synergy with his Rage W, and it's definitely better for the lane phase. So our other jungle today that we're looking at is again one of the best junglers we have at the moment, one of the remaining tanks that didn't get nerfed last patch, Sejuani. She is one of the most popular junglers over there right now, which is very weird for a tank because Korea loves to kill stuff, but it's probably because she can gank properly even as a tank. Sejuani doesn't just have to farm, she doesn't have a weak early game, she doesn't just have to wait for ultimate like some others. She really is not weak, she can fight people and do some really good damage. You've also got a bunch of crowd control, even early as well, plus the crab changes and the Cinderhold buffs. Letting her get to level 3 before she has to fight somebody gives her a good chance to actually kill somebody, or at least be tanky enough to survive and run away. At the end of the day, you are a tank, but Korea loves to win games and play a bit more team play sometimes, so that is kind of good for that. It's like his good team pick, for example. You got loads of crowd control and engage, but you can still play for the early game. So there you go. Those are the picks that really stand out in 9.11 that weren't there as much before. Let me know if you notice any of these cropping up a bit more. Thank you for watching until the very end if you're still here. But for now, I will leave you with Robos.